Donna, we lead off?
Sure
with you?
enough. Yeah, so I get to kick this off. I hope I get it right. If not, the next people will pick up and do better. For our request for the budget this year, the department heads put together the items that are below the personnel request, so the equipment and then the general expenditures. And so I guess I can pick up at the line .20011, unless anybody wants to say anything about the .1 lines.
I'll make a comment. You're going to see an extra large variance between 2024 and 23 on the compensation lines, because when we prepared the budget for 23, we had two unsettled union contracts, the blue collar and the white collar. So essentially, we didn't budget any COLA for 23. So 24 actually reflects double COLA, reflects COLA that would have been paid, that was paid in 23, and COLA that we expect to pay in 2024.
And, you know, Paul, it spun my mind from the mortgage industry acronyms. I'm still picking up on the government acronyms. COLA, cost of living adjustment, layman terms, your raise from year over year on your salary or hourly pay.
Okay, so jumping down to the computer equipment and licensing line, that is up a little bit from last year. We have a few more licenses, and we're going to be replacing 2 computers in our office. We have set out a schedule so that 2 will be replaced each year. We take those 2 old ones and replace the older equipment at the counter and the public facing computer out front to get those up to date. This year, during the year that we replaced it, we took out a 12-year-old computer. It wasn't going to be supported anymore, so the computers that got replaced this year replaced out the counter. Next year we'll replace 2 more, but the pricing on that went up a little bit, so that's part of that increase there. And we'll just keep flipping that out until we have new computers throughout the whole department. 2 each year will make it so that computers will stay at about 3 or 4 years old throughout their lifetime. As you know, when you're not using modern equipment, the support to those operating systems and things are very important. Membership line is pretty much the same as last year, but with the addition of our appraiser. We're going to add her to our GRAR, which is a Greater Rochester Association of Realtors licensing, and some of our membership licensings across the state. We now have 2 people in some of those lines and underneath membership, so that's that increase. The deeds have been pretty consistent, and so I'm going to leave that about the same. Our computer expenses there are exactly the same, and what that is, let me find that line, 18. That is the amount that goes towards replacing the toner and our service towards our counter computer printer that's behind the counter there in our wing. Our department is responsible for that piece of equipment, so that's going to cover the toner maintenance contract that we have with Toshiba. Office supplies, turns out I overestimated a little bit last year, so I'm just bringing that down to what I think will still give us everything that we need to get the job done. Training, staff, and conferences, that line is up a little bit, again, for an additional person requiring training, and the higher level training carries a higher price tag with it. The contractual services are for a computer software engineer that is helping us with some custom software in our department right now. What we have done starting with COVID was we have a custom database there where we can make appointments for our more sensitive public-facing people, our senior citizens, our disabled people, all the people who need to renew exemptions. Now, rather than having them come and stand in line at will as if they were going to the post office or Wegmans, we make appointments for them. So this helps manage those appointments as well as managing the processing of each of those applications. And there are several different types of applications being managed. So each year that just needs to be refreshed a little bit and data brought forward, and that's what that is for. Appraisal and legal contractual expenses is for when we are at the Supreme Court level. If there are any appraisals that we need to purchase or outside attorney counsel or experts that need to go to Supreme Court, this is the line that would afford us that defense. Reassessments has been in the budget for a while, but as you know, as we have been trying to permanently fill positions, we haven't been able to use it. I hope to be able to utilize that later this year and going forward into 2024. So this being the 2024 budget, that will give us that revenue that we need to get the other assistance from outside companies to help us polish up some assessments. I will be giving the town board a presentation in a few months from now as to more details on what that plan is. Software maintenance contracts are things that we currently have, like ImageMate Online. If you go to the town's website and you go to the Assessor's department, we have ImageMate Online, which will give you snippets of our of our data that we have on file for each property. You can look up your home and see that we have you down for a certain size home and the age of the home, how big is your garage, how many bedrooms, bathrooms you have, how much acreage do we have recorded for you. That is some specialized software that we can put that out to the public. It just puts it into some pretty easy to understand language. And behind the scenes, it helps us to do some of our assessment defense, making comparisons. What else is in that line? So we're 66. And there's a couple other things in there. Oh, APAC, so that's also the sketching software that we have to draw our properties. Vehicle operating and lease expense. When I was here this time last year, we were talking about leasing a vehicle, like the Department of Public Works was doing for the rest of the town hall. And we have since come to the conclusion that since we're a department of one vehicle, that maybe we don't need all the services that are built into that lease agreement. We don't need a fleet maintenance and that type of thing. It would actually be more cost affordable for us to buy a vehicle outright. And so we are looking at that plan right now, and I've budgeted for nothing on a lease of a vehicle for next year. Automobile maintenance, then hoping to have a newer vehicle. We won't buy a brand new vehicle off the lot. We'll let somebody else enjoy that depreciation right off, but we'll get a car that has very little mileage on it, hopefully, and pick that up, anticipating that there won't be too much past a couple of oil changes, and put something in there in case there's a flat tire. And I believe that concludes the lines on my budget.
Thank you, Donna. Questions,
Anybody
comments?
have any comments, questions?
So regarding the vehicle operating lease expense, didn't the town enter into a lease, or was that just the DPW department? I thought that program was for all departments, but I misunderstood.
The vehicle research?
It was my understanding that
It's not mandatory.
it's not a mandatory
Okay.
program.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
It
right.
worked very well for that department. They had several very old vehicles they need to replace all at once. Some people are aware that when you are purchasing a vehicle, you can't take out an installment loan if you are a government, so we would have to buy it outright.
Right.
And so for that department that needed to replace several vehicles, a leasing option was going to be more affordable on a year-over-year basis until they started to turn things over, and that got them up and running on better vehicles more immediately.
I think we currently have about 12 vehicles under lease across all the departments through enterprise fleet management.
Tom, did you anticipate purchasing a car for the department in 2024?
In 2023.
23.
If no other questions, I will say that I know in our preliminary discussions, looking very forward to, in the next couple of months, and we're going to put together a workshop presentation and the future, if you want to call it the assessment party, assessment party.
Would you like to have a party, Mr. Sanders?
Oh my goodness, I'll tell you,
There probably won't be
it's
a
only
party.
4:30.
It will be fun, I'll tell you that.
The assessment department and the revaluation that you are working with the state powers that be is extremely impressive. And I'll just leave it at that because I know that you'll put together that presentation. Will be great.
Yeah, and I'd be happy to bring that presentation to you just as soon as I have in writing the support of the state for it. It's a little bit different idea from the standard revaluation program that is out there now. It's been a long time, and by the time we really get underway, it'll be, give or take 20 years since the town of Webster has done revaluation, and we just don't want to double people's assessment overnight. We are currently, our most recent assessment roll is at 58%. So in order to get assessments up to 100, we would have to double them, and that just sounds like a very frightening thing. So what I'm trying to do is put together a plan that would address that, as well as bring the assessments up to speed. But since I'm going a little bit outside of the standard what a town would do for a revaluation, because most towns are closer to 100 when they do the revaluation, and we're nowhere near 100%, I want to make sure that we would have the support of the staff and that I am meeting their expectations in the plan that I have engineered for you.
Yeah, and one of the biggest things of this is going to be the engagement of the community, so we
Absolutely.
can avoid what some of the other towns have gone through, because it is a very misunderstood thing. And someone hears, oh my God, my assessment's going up double. You're going to jump to the conclusion your taxes are going up double, and that's not the case.
That won't be
Not
the
even
case.
close to being the case.
Right, and we will not double them in 1 year. It'll take a series of years to get there, just to make it more understandable, and to give us the time to do it well. So when you look at one of these lines for the software licensing fees, that's somebody else's now, but when you're looking at the software licensing fees that I have there, or one of the computer expenses on the IMO that I mentioned, I'm going to be purchasing in 2024 a new plug-in version so that people from home, and it has to be set up, but it's in the budget, so when you figure out how to get it deployed, and we'll do an advertisement on that, I would like people to look at the assessment records that we have on file and let us know if we have something wrong. Let's get the data right before we start putting out the values. And there's going to be a feedback page on there where homeowners can sit at home or in the library and look at the information that we have on file for them and let us know if there's any corrections that need to be made. So that's part of that budget as
Well,
well.
when we get the workshop, by the end of the year, we'll start the process of educating
Yeah, so
board and citizens.
exactly.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Don.